As we come up on October 28th, 2024, the release of this video, we have a great Monday Night Football game scheduled. It's the New York Football Giants at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and these two teams have had a rivalry beyond the ages. Some 80 years, 90 years, these teams have been playing each other. And in the Giants' 100th anniversary, we're going to talk about the coincidences and the meetings and the rivalry of these two great franchises. Coming up in just a moment.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history, and welcome to another Monday edition. We're going to talk Giants. It's the 100th anniversary of the New York Football Giants, and we're going to talk about a team that I've grown up supporting, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They face each other tonight on Monday Night Football, the day that this is being released in 2024, and it may be they're on two different sides of the NFL this year. One's going on an upward trajectory, the other one's a little flat, but they've had a great rivalry over the years, and we're going to discuss that in just a moment. And some of the coincidences and some of the stories that intertwine the two franchises, I think you'll find it quite interesting. But before we do that, let's make sure that you're aware we just had our second book come out. It is called When Greasy Met the Wonder Coach, the 1922 Rose Bowl Coaches. This is a great thriller that you're going to enjoy of football history. Two coaches that maybe we don't know a lot about, maybe we don't celebrate very much. Greasy Neal, of course, we know him from the NFL days with the Philadelphia Eagles, winning two National Football League championships in the late 1940s. But he was a great college coach and a great athlete as well. We have his bio in this story, along with Andy Smith, who of the Cal Wonder team that played the Washington Jefferson coached Greasy Neal team, that 1922 Rose Bowl. And Andy Smith was a great coach too. The Cal Wonder teams were basically the force in college football for 4 straight years in the early 1920s until Andy Smith who suddenly died, so can't coach too much when you do that, when you get sick. But he and Greasy Neal are two of the greatest coaches in college football history, and we have a great book on them. So make sure you check that out on Amazon. Look for it under Darren Hayes or When Greasy Met the Wonder Coach. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Giants have had a great rivalry. When the Steelers came in as the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1933, their very first game was against the New York Football Giants, and their owners had a great friendship. They had a lot in common. Tim Mara and Art Rooney Sr., the founders of these two great franchises, and their families have owned each of their franchises for pretty much the entire journey of each NFL franchise. There was a few months there where the Rooneys did not own the Steelers, and that's a long story we've gone into in some other episodes. But for the most part, every football season, the Rooneys have owned the Steelers, the Mars have owned the New York Giants. 1925 when the Giants came in, 1933 when the Steelers/Pirates came in. Now, they were such good friends that Tim Mara, in a way, sort of saved the Steelers. Kind of an interesting story. So just in the first couple years that Art Rooney brought his Pittsburgh Pirates into the National Football League after he paid, I believe, $2,500 to get the team in, he was having some trouble making payroll. It was an expensive venture, the NFL. And the NFL wasn't the behemoth it is today, where they had television contracts and everything else everybody wanted to advertise. They were sort of looked down upon. College football was the king back then. So there was a struggle, especially in the steel town, with some blue collar workers to get people to go to a professional football game. They had Washington, Jefferson, Duquesne, Carnegie, Tech, Pitt Panthers, West Virginia. That's who the people wanted to see. They wanted to see the college game. So going to see a startup professional team wasn't all that big of a deal. Even when the Giants came to town, the Giants weren't super big, but we talked about it. They got saved by Red Grange in 1925 and had some money. But the Steelers were saved by Tim Mara in a way. Tim Mara was a gambler. He loved the horses, loved the tracks. He invested in, I believe he owned a couple racetracks. Art Rooney, the same. He was a gambler and a boxer, and they both enjoyed the pugilism sport of boxing and betting on it. And they loved the horses and the dog races and things like that. And they both owned football teams. A lot to have in common. Great opportunity to have a friendship, meeting at some of the coaches' meetings, everything. So Rooney travels up to upstate New York, goes to Saratoga Springs Raceway with Mara, and that weekend, Rooney knocks down at the time $160,000, which I believe is between $350,000 and $500,000 in today's money. Not a bad earnings for a weekend. Playing, trifectas and exactas on the horses. Had a great streak going on there. Well, it ends up saving the franchise. He's able to make payroll the next year and pay for the team for the next couple of years. It's funded. It was sort of that new nest egg that boosted the Pirates, which later became the Steelers, and kept them going for a while. And they gained some momentum and got some following and some backing, and eventually in the 1970s win some Super Bowl. So can thank Tim Mara for being friends with Art Rooney and inviting him up for that weekend trip up to Saratoga Springs. Now, these two teams going into this Monday night game in 2024 have played 78 times. The Giants have the lead on the series, 44 wins, 31 wins for the Steelers, and there was 3 ties in this series. Now, the Giants have far and away outscored the Steelers. Giants have posted 1,530 points to the Steelers 1,320. So almost 210 more points in these 79 games have been scored by the New York Giants. But they've had some really good and memorable games over the years. We sit there and we think about it. The Giants are in the National Football Conference in the Eastern Division. The Steelers are in the AFC North. So it's not like they play each other, not in the same division or play each other regularly. They play each other basically once every 4 years, a home and away series. But like we said, the very first game between these two teams took place, and it was the Steelers' very first game in Pittsburgh, September 20th, 1933. The Giants won that game 23-2, beating up on the upstart Pirates at the time. And but it's a memorable game. Now, we went through and we recorded all of the close games between these two teams over the years, and they're kind of surprising. 1934, the Giants are Super Bowl champions that year, but on October 3rd, when they went to Pittsburgh, the Giants won 14-12, so a very close game in that case. In 1936, the Steelers got their first win against the Giants. They won 10-7. So again, these are just games where there's a one-score difference in the thing. There's plenty of them where there's big blowouts one way or the other, mostly the Giants blowing out the Steelers early on. But we're talking about these close games. In 1937, Giants traveled back to Pittsburgh and they win 10-7. The Pirates in 38 went to New York City and they won 13-10 at the Polo Grounds. Big win for the Pirates that year. 1939, the Giants doubled up the Pirates 14-7 in Pittsburgh. And in 1940, the Giants won, or they had a tie with the Steelers, 10-all, and that right before World War II broke out. 1942, the Giants lost to the Steelers 13-10 in Pittsburgh. And in October 6, 1946, the Giants won in Pittsburgh 17-14. And they met again, and the Giants won 7-0 in the Polo Grounds on Ken Strong Day. We talked about Ken Strong, the great Giants star. They had a special day for him and commemorations and tributes to him. And the Giants paid tribute to him by beating the Pittsburgh Steelers 7-0 on Ken Strong Day. 1949, the Steelers won 21-17 at the Polo Grounds. In 51, the Giants and Steelers tie in Pittsburgh. 53, it's a 14-10 Steelers win at the Polo Grounds. And again, in 55, the Steelers win by 2, 19-17, kind of an odd score. maybe that makes the Scormanji Twitter page. 1917 has got to be an odd one. 56, the Giants win 17-14 in Pittsburgh. And then 21-16 Giants victory in 59. And it goes through the whole bunch of close victories there, that we got to talk about. And in some of the more recent times, a game played in 2004, and that's kind of significant because in 2004, you had two rookie quarterbacks playing each other, Ben Roethlisberger and Eli Manning. And it's kind of fitting that they had a really close game on December 18th, 2004, as the Steelers won 33-30 in New York. And so, real close game. Now, it's kind of neat to go through and compare these quarterbacks. And you can compare them because they're so similar. They both came out in 2004. Eli was the #1 pick in the draft by the San Diego Chargers. The Giants did not pick him. He never played for San Diego. He didn't want to play for San Diego. They ended up having to trade him right away. Roethlisberger was the 11th overall pick by the Steelers. Bill Cowher was the coach at that time. So Eli, born January 3rd, 1981. Roethlisberger was born March 2nd, 1982. So Eli's about a year older than, over a year older than Roethlisberger is. Roethlisberger comes from Findlay, Ohio, and Eli Manning grew up in, New Orleans, and where his dad was a famous quarterback, Archie Manning, and the all pros and Pro Bowls are kind of close. I'm sorry, not all pros, but the Pro Bowls are kind of close. Eli made it to 4 Pro Bowls. Ben Roethlisberger was in 6 Pro Bowls. They both won 2 Super Bowls. Eli was 2-0 in his Super Bowl appearances. Roethlisberger 2-1 in his Super Bowl appearances. Roethlisberger in 2004 was the AP Rookie of the Year, and he was also the PFWA Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2004. So very similar that these two had their trajectories, and probably both will have bronze busts in Canton here before too long as two of the great quarterbacks of all time here coming out the same year. And of course, you can't forget Phillip Rivers came out that same time too, but did not have the Super Bowls, no Super Bowl appearances for Phillip Rivers, even though he played on some good teams and really threw a lot of passes in the NFL. So kind of an interesting that these two teams meeting here on Monday Night Football, maybe not a meaningless game by standards today, and you never know what's going to happen. It could be an upset. We've seen some happen already this season, and it happens all the time, especially a team that seems like they should be trounced and they all of a sudden get it all together and just have some momentum and take on the team that should win. So who knows what's going to happen? Enjoy the game and just think about this history between these two great clubs, right from the ownerships in the very beginning all the way through their great quarterbacks, and tonight on Monday Night Football. So until next time, everybody, have a great Gridiron Day.